Leadership is critical to societal development, and so when issues around it comes up for conversation, it is important that everyone takes time to participate directly or indirectly. And so, as part of our responsibility at the Roll Call Group to shape opinion, our focus this week will be leadership across different strata of society. Felix Olamide Ohunyeye is a retired general of the Nigerian Army and now a politician. He spoke to Roll Call's Akinwumi Abonude on a wide range of issues around leadership.
This is a defining moment. This is a very critical moment in the life of this state. This is a moment to unlock the potentials. This is a moment to unleash the resources of the state towards its development.
Welcome to People and Events. I am Tayelulu Oladuti. Let us take a short break now, and when we return, you can enjoy the conversation with retired General Ohunyeye.
At Roll Call Group, owners of Senses Global Concert, Roll Call Events, TIG Media Multiples, and Roll Call Media Concert will celebrate people, events, and success stories.
Retired General Felix Olamide Ohunyeye, thank you very much for accepting to talk to me on People and Events.
Thank you, my dear brother, Mr. Akinwumi, for having me on your set.
Okay, so let's begin with what enticed you into the army?
My local government, Okitupa, where I experienced my childhood days, we were opportuned in that local government to have a military battalion. It happens that annually on the Independence Day, the soldiers, they come to the general local government arena to do military parades, and then we children, pupils from schools, we go from our various schools to go and do march past. So it's such an epoch event that you are just immediately carried away because of the smartness, the strength of the soldiers, the neatness of the clothes, the way the khakis were ironed, the way they march past, the words from the commanders and all those. So with that we have a drop of that of the likeness for that profession. So it's not a surprise that even though I was admitted to University of Ife in 1985 to study accountancy, after some 6 months to a year, I left for the Nigerian Defense Academy to pursue a full-time 5-year military training course.
So it was not for want of opportunities to have tertiary education that you went into the army. So you went into the army, and I'd like you to tell us what your journey in the army was like before you retired.
It's one of the most difficult experiences a growing child can ever pass through. You are looking at how to survive the next seconds, minutes, not even a survival of months or years. It was a very difficult, very difficult experience. And I must tell you, because of the peculiarities of the level of discipline, because of the strict and regimental life, because of the fact that there's need to do a complete change of your personality, a complete realignment of your thinking, so that you become regimental, so that you become very loyal, so that you become toughened, so that you be more disciplined. Several training experiences were introduced. It was certainly, very certainly, a very difficult period in my life. The training is very difficult, rigorous, engaging, and comprehensive. You are taught about everything, every aspect of human life.
One thing I've picked from everything you've said, one very key thing is discipline. Now, how has the discipline you imbibed in during your service to the nation in the Nigerian Army shaped your life as a person?
All right, I will come to that, but I want to talk about loyalty to structures, which is regimentation. My coming out to become a politician, I hear the politicians tell me that, can he be loyal to our structure? Can he be disciplined can he show discipline to the party? And I want to let them know that the military is where you talk about structural adherence to rigid principles, the spirit of togetherness, the spirit of collectiveness, because the idea is that you cannot fight alone, you can't win a war alone. Now, relating to the question you asked about how this has shaped my life, your military life helps you to be very disciplined, and disciplined in service and outside service. And one other thing is that by virtue of being a soldier, you are subject to military law, while at the same time be subject to the civil law. The laws you are subjected to, I'm equally subjected to them. But I still have military law, so that brings a double burden on me. So because of this, the soldier is extremely much more careful than even his civilian counterparts. Because your training is aligning you with what the civilians are doing. It's looking at how to interface with the political class to perform our duty. It's telling you that, look, essentially as a soldier, you are still a political animal. It's telling you that at the strategic level, you must know what the government is thinking about, especially in realizing their state objectives, and you must know that subordination to civil authority is very sacrosanct. So the discipline within the military has helped, to cement this training and made it much more, powerful and functional.
Then you retired from the Nigerian Army after serving meritoriously, because that's what your colleagues said, when you were doing the pull-out. Is that what they said?
Yes.
And one would expect that, having served so meritoriously and rigorously too, you would just decide to relax and enjoy, your retirement. But then you decided that it was time for you to seek the votes of the people to be governor. What, was the reason that you took this decision?
Shortly before I left the military, I saw a yawning gap between where my state is and where it's supposed to be. And I've seen other states of equal status in terms of resource base. I mean, states that that benefit from 13% or derivation, and of course every other state gets the monthly FAC allocation, NDDC projects and all those. I've seen those states like Rivers and Akwa Ibom, and you agree with me that in the last 20 years a lot has been done in those states. We have seen Rivers State in the last 8 years with series of legacy and institutional projects that were not only introduced but commissioned. And the same thing with Akwa Ibom. All roads practically dualized. Stadium, one of the best in Africa, is there. Library, and so many other projects. Unfortunately, Ondo State appears to be locked out of this largesse in terms of building a very strong future, especially institutions for future generations. And that has always agitated my mind. That aside, the call for effective, top-notch, performing, visionary leadership by every stakeholder in Ondo State has been resonating in the last 3, 4, 5 years, and I'm sure you are aware of this fact. The people desires, as a matter of urgency, that there is the need to have a leader that can think outside the box and change the entire paradigm, so that Ondo State can, as a matter of must, compete among the Committee of States. So, I see this as being very necessary at the point we are. And I now reconcile this against all the trainings that the federal government had given me, all the resources the federal government had exerted on my trainings, on my career development, on my academic, attainments, and even professional callings. And I feel this is the right time, still very vibrant and young, to offer my service, to lead my people, not because I want to lead them, but because I feel that this is the right time to bring in the best hand, the best brain, to tinker with the variables within the state, the available resources, to change the tide and fortunes of the state, to move the state from the current consuming state to an industrialized state, to leverage on the enormous resources, especially aquatic and agricultural, to industrialize the state, to ensure that commerce reigns supreme, to turn Ondo State into a commercial hub, to build infrastructures, mega infrastructures in the state. This is a defining moment. This is a very critical moment in the life of this state. This is a moment to unlock the potentials. This is a moment to unleash the resources of the state towards its development.
Have you taken time to find out why Ondo State is where it is? You talked about being a little backward, Now, have you taken time to find out what the stumbling blocks are, or the barricades are, that have made Ondo State stay where it is up until now? In the Committee of States where it is supposed to manifest glory. Have you taken time to find out why?
The gap, basically, has to do with some critical factors. Number one, the resources of the state. Number two, we talk about leadership. And number three, the people. To turn things around through reforms, through functional policies and blueprints, you need a revolutionary leader. We have seen what Gombe State has been doing in the past years. Rivers is there, Akwa Ibom is there. Breathtaking milestones in terms of development. What of Lagos State? So leadership plays a role. Number two, the leaders in Ondo State may not have enjoyed the best of revenue, even though there are prospects and opportunities that are not fully optimally exploited. Look at our internally generated revenue in Ondo State. It's about 3 billion monthly. And I recall when our late governor, our brother, Akeredolu, came in, may God bless his soul, internally generated revenue was partly about 600 million. But at least through rigorous efforts, he was able to take it to 3 billion. But I want to tell you that having a 3 billion revenue in a state that receives about 7 billion from the government may not solve any problem. Lagos State currently receives not less than 60 billion on a monthly basis from IGR. And states like Kano, Rivers, Ogun, you're talking about 10 to 15 billion. What do they have that is not in Ondo State? Nothing. What do we have that they don't have? We have the advantage of being blessed with abundant, organic, natural resource. That's one. I'm talking about our silicon sand in Ibokoda. We talk about the bitumen, which pervades the whole of the southern senatorial zone, and nobody is talking about its exploitation. We talk about the iron ore that is there in Akoko, ceramics in Ose local government, and numerous, precious resources that are scattered and dot the entire Ondo landscape. So, where we're able to have leaders that can effectively harness these resources, it will change the narrative will change overnight. And to the people, no leader puts themselves in power. The people appoints their leader. The people decide that, look, enough is enough. We want a complete change. Their voting powers will do the magic. And we can get the best hand, to come to Ondo State to unlock all these God-given talents and potentials.
Okay, let's look at these things that you've talked about. Key word, leadership. But the kind of leadership that you're seeking is the kind of leadership that requires, in political parlance, to be processed. You are essentially a new entrant into the political arena. How do you hope to actually, for instance, get the ticket of your party?
How do I get the support? To be a military officer that served for 35 years is more than enough credential for me to earn your support. Because if you look at other clients, it's a green card, it's a ready ticket for you to lead. If you go to America, for example, those are developed world. Their retired generals are highly valued, and they are being encouraged to come to take major government appointments. Pauline Cowell and all of them. In Great Britain, even in America, there's a level of military service that is often required before you can become the leader. If you have not served in the military, they believe that there's some requisite experience you have not gotten. Great Britain, for example. So it's, what about China? The Politburo, the political system in China is a mix. And we are making noise of it that China is doing so well all over the world. Why are they doing well? Have you found out how they are ruling the country? Where you have a mix of the military, the civil, in their party. You understand? Everybody is being carried along. But what is essential is that loyalty cannot be compromised. So what I'm saying essentially is that by virtue of serving the country for 35 years, I believe it's more than enough credentials. And of course, the leaders, if as a military officer, I am not close to the leaders in my community, then it shows that I am not worth my salt. If as a general, my leaders don't know me, if as a leader, as a military or senior military officer, there are no impacts about my activities within my environment, it shows that one is completely not relevant. So essentially at that top level, there is no difference. Politics, is a war fighting, is continuation of politics and policies by other means. Essentially, we are both leaders, and that is why at a higher level, the government will send you to go to attend strategic courses where you attend with civilians, because they know that in a short while, you're going to take a lot of decisions jointly with them or collectively with them that can further the interests of the state.
Okay, so let's come to what you're going to do differently. I mean, what things are you going to bring to the table in terms of harnessing the resources? That's one. And secondly, how are you going to do these things differently? Because all the people who have served at one level or the other, especially at the level of governor, have made promises and said they will do things differently. But by your assessment, there is not enough that has been done. So what are you going to do differently, and how are you going to do it differently?
Everything will be done differently. To start with, I know that I want to renew. There is going to be complete renewal in those states. Infrastructures, in the mindset and all those. The poverty mentality, which was deliberately created to weaponize poverty, so that they can deploy the people at will, they can till them at will, you could change their perception at will. We will have to design, we will have to work on those and change them. So everything practically I'm going to do differently. The state may not have the resources to do it. That's where I'm going to start from. If you want to do everything differently, how do you get the money? I'm going to think outside the box to generate fund for the state in such a manner that I'll be targeting to surpass states like Lagos. It's going to be an uphill task, but it can be done.
Do you have the connections to do these things?
So we are going to bring the best of skills in human resource management. We're going to bring the best of skills in industrialization. We're going to bring the best of skills in infrastructural renewal, in building solid infrastructures, solid legacy institutions across board in all the sectors within the state. Let me cite one example. I want to generate revenue and I need money. I will not continue to tax the people because they are not beasts of burden. Because the only way you can continue to get that money without thinking outside the box is to increase taxes. We will not do that because the people are already, overburdened. But I still want to get my money. So how will I do? I'm going to look at the tax administration. What is the extent, the content of IT in the tax management? The net, is it wide enough? If it's not wide enough, how do I widen it? How do I ensure that everybody that's supposed to pay tax is paid? But I will not, instead, I'm going to reduce taxes because I'm going to look at other more potent revenue sources.
Such as?
Good. We have discussed the areas of resources, both agro-allied resources and embedded organic natural resources within the state. Look at bitumen that is all over the place in the southern zone, and empirically we have 45 million cubic metric tons. That deposit is the largest in Africa and the second all over the world. That is not enough. The deposit is one of the best qualities world over. So what are we doing with those resources? It's like having gold, raw gold that we are not using. We have to see how we bring in refiners or refineries to come in with their equipment. We provide the land. We're going to give them the security, and when they start producing, it might not be immediate. So many benefits. They're going to take charge of infrastructures like roads, electricity. They're going to train our people. They are going to employ them. They will take people out of the market. They're going to convert Ondo State to a business colony. We're going to have what we have in Dubai, in Ondo State. That is one. The sea is there. Luckily, a seaport has been approved. We're going to have a second seaport because that line is the deepest in the Nigerian waters.
You're planning to have 2 seaports?
Oh yes, we have it in Lagos. Just within a distance of less than 2 kilometers, there are 2 seaports. The Apapa Wharf and the Tinkan ports. Those are the kind of things that's making Lagos to be thick.
Are you not over ambitious with this?
I'm not saying I have the money. What I'm saying is that we're going to use our wherewithal to bring investors. What the investors want is a place conducive for that investment. When they invest there, would there be returns on their investment? Is the depth, the river depth or the sea depth, is it adequate to bring in their investment there? And you know that when you have a deep sea port there, maybe 2 or 3, what we stand to gain is that they will join forces to help us build infrastructures. We don't even need 1 naira to be part of it. But of course, the benefits to the people of Ondo State, will be there as legacies in the next 30, 40 years.
So what you're saying in essence is that your focus is industrialization.
That is one of the, we are going to focus on so many other things. What about the agro-allied sector? Agriculture. The Akunu Cattle Ranch, which was the first in the whole of Western Nigeria that was set up, in Akunu Akoko is there. The weather is conducive, and nobody is talking about those facilities. What we need is we organize the farmers in those areas into cooperatives. And we get loan from, reputable institutions like African Development Bank to create massive, breeding colonies in those areas. And before you know what's happening, our cows will supply milk, they will generate employment, meat will be supplied even back to the north. Because what you see now is that all the meat we are consuming is coming from the north. Why can't we have a center here that will rear those cows, supply to the north, supply to southwest and even the southeast, and even have enough for exports?
Thank you very much for joining me on People and Events today. Let's do this again next week. My name is Akinwumi Abotunde. Please enjoy the rest of your day and stay safe.
At Roll Call Group, owners of Senses Global Concert, Roll Call Events, TIG Media Multiples, and Roll Call Media Concert will celebrate people, events, and success stories.
This is wishing General Ohuyeye the very best in his political pursuits. That's our package this week. Thank you for watching. Please join us next week. To have your events on this program, please call the number on your screen. I am Tayelulu Oladusi. Have a great evening.